So y'all, I don't know if I'm going to add this into today's vlog already, but I wanted to do a conversation about a van bill. And I know I've done these before, but I think it's important for me to do another one, because the deeper you get into your van bill, the more mistakes you make and the more you learn. And I would love, like, if I did a van bill, to sit down and listen to somebody that had the same type of vehicle that I'm building out, to tell me the things that they learned, the mistakes that they learned, the things that they didn't do that they wish they would have did, and the things that they did that they wish they wouldn't have did. Like, I think that is important, to try to search somebody that have the same vehicle that you're building out, and they could potentially save you a lot of money, a lot of time, a lot of effort by taking the advice and just watching the video. And even if you don't have the same type of vehicle that that person have, I would still say it's important to watch that type of video of a person saying the things that they learned from their van bill, because even though you don't have the same type of vehicle, a lot of van bills, the basics of the van bill is still the same. The floor, the walls, the insulation is still basically the same. So y'all know I have a Ford Transit E250. The Ford Transit has a lot of curves, girl. Out of all the vehicles, out of the Sprinter, out of the Ram, the Ford Transit has the most curves. And those curves might be cute to some of y'all. But when you building out that van, baby, them curves is gonna cause you a lot of heartache and pain. So when you are building out a van, I think the first things that you should do in a van build are like insulation, insulating your floor, insulating your walls, insulating your ceiling. Definitely, if you are going to put a fan in, everything on the outside of the van you should do first. Like, if you have to cut any holes in your van, whatever you're going to cut a hole in, if you're going to put a ceiling in, cut that hole. If you're going to put the Sure Power plug in, cut that hole for the Sure Power plug. Before you start putting your walls up, before you start putting your insulation up, you want to cut all the holes that you're going to cut into the van first, because you need to get to it. You need to see it. So that's like the first thing you need to do. Well, the first thing you need to do when you're going to do a van build, I think you need to sit down and you need to figure out what all you gonna do. Like, how intricate do you want your van build to be? Can you afford electric? Can you afford, some people put plumbing in their van. You need to do all that before you put your walls up, and you need to know exactly what you're gonna do. Even if you don't have your floor plan yet, just knowing what you're gonna do will be able to help you develop that floor plan, because now you know, okay, I want to put plumbing. So where's going to be the best place to put plumbing? Or if I'm going to put plumbing, then where I want to put my sink. So you have to determine if you're going to put plumbing. I don't have any plumbing running in my van, but regardless of where I have my sink at, I can run plumbing on the outside or wherever. My plumbing just won't be behind my walls. And I don't always think it's a good thing to put plumbing behind a wall, especially in a van, because if you have a leak, you're not going to be able to get to it. And then you're going to have to pretty much cut that pipe and start a new pipe. When I had Treasure, my plumbing was in my molding up at the top. And when I left Charlene's house for the first time, when I first had came down here, it had froze. And on the way back, I had a leak. Water was everywhere. I didn't know where it was coming from. I never ended up fixing it because I never pulled that thing down, and I never filled my tank up again on top. Or I could fill my tank up on top, but I also had a nozzle where I could turn the water off.
Turn left onto CA 127.
So I could turn the water off from the inside. So you need to decide if you want to run your plumbing behind your walls or in the inside of your, just in the inside. Because if you ever go to a state where it's going to get freezing cold, it might freeze your pipes, and you might end up having some leaks. So that's like the first thing I would do. I would sit down and make a list of like the things that I'm gonna do to the van. I want a ceiling. I want to put sure power in my van. Plumbing. Some people put the water tanks on the inside, and some people put the water tanks under the van. Do you have that type of van where you can put a water tank under your van? Some people get water tanks custom made for the Ford Transit. I think they do have water tanks for the Ford Transit, but I think you probably gonna have to kind of get something custom made too, and they're gonna be a little expensive. So yeah, I think on a longer wheelbase, you might be able to fit a regular tank. I would like to have a tank, y'all, eventually underneath my van. Then that means you're gonna need a water pump. So some people put their water on the inside. If they are gonna be in states where it freezes, and they're gonna be in states where it snows, then they put their water tank on the inside. So when you see people putting their water tank on the inside of their van, it's usually because they are in cold climates where that water would freeze if it's underneath the van. If you're in warm climates and the majority of your time is going to be spent in warm climates, then you can put your tanks under the bottom of your van. I would want my tank underneath the bottom of my van. Eventually, I may travel to some cold states eventually, but I'm not going to be living in no cold states all the time. My first thing I would do, if you have a Ford Transit, and if y'all happen to buy a Ford Transit that was a van like mine, and it still have the black wall in it, and it still have those metal pieces in it, and it still have the door up at the back, the sliding door behind the seats. You could take that down if you want to, and build your own sliding door thing. It would be more complicated. And at one point I was gonna leave that in, and then I convinced myself to take it out because I seen videos with other people that built their thing in a Ford Transit, and it looked simple and it looked nice. But baby, my door did not come out. Because one thing about it, a lot of people who do van builds on YouTube, they do not show you every step. It's like they want to show you this process, and they want to show you how good their stuff came out, but they don't want you to have it easier than they had it, so they don't show you every step by step by step. They leave information out, and it's up to you to figure out what they left out. And sometimes that's not the easiest thing to do. My door did not come out like them people's door came out, y'all. And even though they had a hard time with their door, they did not show you the steps of the hard times that they had with theirs, and they did not show you the solution. So there's that. So even though I took my back metal thing out, and then I was building a door, and then when me and Miss Charlene was redoing my floors, we put it back in, and then I took it out again. Taking it out gives you, I would say, about 4 to 6 inches. Taking it out gives you about 4 to 6 inches. However, leaving it in gives you about 4 to 6 inches for you to pull this seat. My seats are too close up to where if somebody is riding with me, they on long distance trips, they're not gonna really be comfortable because they can't put the seat all the way back. So I would recommend leaving that thing in, because initially what I had did was took the foam and I filled it in with foam back and front. Well, I filled it in with that sticky, y'all, this is gonna be a long video. I filled it in with the sticky, what do they call that, insulation. I filled that in with the sticky insulation because that thing is metal, so you want that sticky stuff to be on there to protect it from the heat. And then I put the other foam insulation on it and I taped it in, and then what I was going to eventually do is cover it with the wood on top of that, so it would have still gave what I wanted it to give. I could still put the design on it, I could have still painted it and everything, but you have the structure that was made for that van. It's already screwed in, and your seats are going to be able to go back and forth like they need to go back and forth, because the way that it's made, it curves around that column in the back of the Ford Transit to where your seat can go back farther. Yes, it is farther back, and it's going to take away from inches in your van bill. But every aspect, every inch in a van bill and every inch in the cab counts. So when you're driving long distances, and especially if you're going to have 2 people driving with you, y'all want to be comfortable when you're driving. So I would recommend leaving that in if you have one, leaving it in. And also the back panels that's on the wall. Now, when I first did my van bill, somebody had said, if I was you, I wouldn't take all that down to insulate. I would leave it up. I would still do that part. I would still take it down, and I would insulate behind the walls, and I would put the sticky insulation on the walls. I would not buy Havelock wool again. I spent over, y'all, when I did the math, I spent over $1,700 pretty much to $2,000, because if you count that sticky insulation that I bought that for my floors, I bought it for my walls, and I bought it for my ceiling. So that is still insulation. If you count that, I've spent over $2,000 for insulation. But I spent over, like, I think it was $1,300 or $1,700 on the Havelock wool, and I still didn't have enough of the Havelock. I would have needed one more box, and the boxes were what, $350 a piece, $400 and something a piece. Child, I spent almost $2,000 on insulation. Don't do that. It's not that serious. Even though we think it is that serious, and yes, it is. Insulation is serious. I'm not saying don't insulate. I'm saying don't spend $2,000. Definitely go with the sticky stuff that that I put on, and I think that was like $60 or $70 a roll.
Is that the soundproofing?
Now the sound deadening, that stuff is expensive. The sound deadening is about $70 a box. Now, I would still do the sound deadening. However, I feel like the stuff that I'm telling you to do, it serves multiple purposes. It is also considered sound deadening. So I think if you use that, you don't need necessarily the sound deadening. stuff that's $70 a box, because this other stuff is also considered sound deadening, and you're going to cover the whole wall. So if you got money to waste, then do both. But if you're trying to do this on a budget, just do...
At the next stop sign, turn left.
If you're trying to do this on a budget, you guys, and still get the insulation that you need, I am in love with that sticky stuff. I'm in love with it. And
At the stop sign, turn left onto CA 127.
I think it's like $60 a roll, and that one roll goes a long way. To do your floors in the van, it took 2 rolls. So your floors and your ceiling are the same, so it would take 2 rolls for the ceiling. I would say to do your whole van floors, ceiling,
For about 56 miles, continue straight.
floor, ceilings, and walls, I would say it would take 8 rolls. And if you're gonna do your doors, with those 8 rolls, you might have enough to do like your doors and stuff like that. But that's what I say, you guys. A video like this is very important to watch before you do a van build, because you'll just start spending money on stuff. And I'm telling y'all, I made a lot of mistakes in my van build. And the first mistake was watching all these videos, watching everything that these people were using in the van build, and then go and order it, instead of figuring out everything that you was gonna need, figuring out what size battery you was gonna use, what size battery bank, and what size. And we thought girl, I ordered stuff that I ain't even used. I could have had that money for something else. And after, let me tell you something, if you just start ordering stuff, and you haven't started on your van bill yet, you only have 30 days to return that stuff to Amazon. And if you're storing the stuff up, then you're gonna pass your return date when you decide you don't need it. Do you know how much stuff I bought that I did not need, did not use, and needed something else, and had to order something else in its place, and I didn't return it, couldn't return it because I had it, and by the time I got ready to use it, it was past the 30 days. If you find somebody that has a van like yours, or even if they don't have a van like yours, but they're, say for instance, you're doing your solar system like theirs, then figure out these specific things that you're going to need. But if you're going to change anything from their plans, then you might need some. Okay, y'all, the phone died because we had the heat on, trying to stay warm. and the phone is blowing straight on. I already knew that heat was blowing out that vent. I already knew that the phone was gonna die from a heat stroke. But what I was saying, y'all, that insulation, that padding, it's like a padding, and it's called and I'm gonna have links in the description box so y'all can go, because you need to order the specific roll that I ordered, because that roll gave you more. They got other rolls that are thicker and it's less, and it costs more money, and you need this particular specific roll that is going to give you enough. And with, I think, 8 rolls of that probably would be enough to do the ceiling, the floor, and the walls. And I would recommend doing the ceiling, the floor, and the walls, especially if you're in a state like Nevada and Arizona, because baby, let me tell you something. When I did my van build, started my van build at Miss Charlene's house, it was the summertime in Nevada. 100, I think some days, a few days got to 115 degrees, but almost every day got to like 105, 110. And when you would touch the walls of that van, that metal was so hot, y'all. I'm talking about, it would literally, you could burn your hand touching. That's how hot it was. You'd be like, ouch. And when I put that stuff on there, same day, went back, touched my walls, you can't even feel the heat. It makes such a big difference. And also, the ceiling in the van, that heat is beaming down on that ceiling, so you definitely want to put that stuff on. It's called, I think it's called car sound deadening, and that's what people use in their vehicles for the music. So I wouldn't use, if I had to do another, but I did in this van, but we learned. And a van bill do not have to cost, it's gonna cost you thousands of dollars, y'all, but it don't have to cost you in the tens and the 20,000s. Let's try to do this van bill. Let's give yourself a budget. Can you do a van bill for $5,000? I think you can, but I think you ain't gonna be able to make no mistakes. You ain't gonna make no mistakes, and you're gonna go the cheapest route that you could possibly go. So in going the cheapest route that you could possibly go, do not put that Kills, Mills, or whatever sound deadening that everybody use, and they don't use that, because the other roll of the sound deadening that we're gonna put on is considered sound deadening too, and you're putting it on all your walls and all your floors and all your ceiling. That's all you need. If that's the only insulation that you can do, you guys, I'm gonna tell you, it's gonna make a big difference, especially for some people who hadn't planned not to do nothing. I don't suggest not doing nothing. So I definitely suggest to use that roll of sound deadening that I'm talking about. And if for your, I really think that that's all you need. But even if you want to do 2 layers of that, that would be great, and you wouldn't need nothing else. Then your walls will be flatter if you're not gonna put a whole bunch of partitions up. Everything I'm saying depends on how you plan on doing it. Now, if you're gonna put up put up walls, and they're gonna be forward, then you could put the regular insulation. I will put the other insulation first that I'm talking about, and then if you feel like you still need, because your walls are going to be thicker behind it, if you feel like you still need insulation, I would use the regular home insulation that's brown, not the kind that's loose with the paper on it. I would go and use that. That's going to be cheaper. I would not go with, and I guess people gonna say, well, you're discouraging people from buying a product. I'm discouraging you from wasting money. I would not go with Havelock wool. The Havelock wool is problematic for a van bill, you guys. The other people that make it look easy, I'm gonna tell you, I helped somebody deconstruct a van bill that had Havelock wool behind the walls, and all the Havelock wool had sunk down. So basically they didn't have no insulation, because all the Havelock wool, it's no stability to the Havelock wool, and it's hard to tape it up. It's hard to get it to stay up. But even if you use the home insulation with that brown paper on it, then you can take the aluminum tape and tape it to the metal of the van, and then make it stick up there. But that Havelock wool, it's hard to work with, y'all, and to me, it's not worth the price. So I would definitely eliminate the Havelock wool, and I would just go with the other stuff that I used. Even if I went with 2 rolls of that, it would still come out cheaper than 2 rolls on top of each other, it would still come out cheaper. So that's my first suggestion. The insulation is to use that sound deadening, rubberized backing, floor, ceiling, and walls. And then the second suggestion is to, once you get the stuff on your floor, to do your floors to your van. And I suggest not buying slats. Everybody use the slats and they buy them. We bought them slats. They are not in good condition, y'all. Buy you the pine 3/4 inch wood and make your own slats. And you can make them as wide as you want to make them. You can make them 2 inches, you can make them 3 inches. And I also suggest not going vertical like everybody go horizontal with your slats. Glue them down. You don't have to nail them, you don't have to screw them. Glue them down, and don't worry about it, just glue it. And the reason why you don't really have to worry about that floor is because when you build on top of that floor not going nowhere. That floor not going nowhere. Glue it down to the stuff that you're gonna have on the floor and go horizontal with it and make your own slats, which you can probably make your own slats for your floor with 1 sheet of that 1/4 inch, with 1 sheet of that 3/4 plywood, the pine. Oh, another thing, y'all. Do not buy the regular plywood from Home Depot. The regular cheap plywood that everybody buys, don't do it. Do not put that in your van bill. If you cannot afford the birch, use the pine 3/4 ply. And unfortunately, they only sell that plywood, the pine in 3/4. So anywhere that you wanted slats or framing, buy the 3/4 inch ply. Do not buy, I'm just trying to tell you and save you some money at the same time. Do not buy any of those pre-cut, what do they call those things? The furring strips. Don't buy furring strips for your van. Don't do it. Buy the sheet of 3/4 inch pine ply and make your own furring strips. However wide you want them, for your floor, for your framing. That's the way to go. Them furring strips be whopped, the bop, the boo bang. They be the girl, we can make us a rap song. Whop, the bop, the boo bang, the whatever. They be all jacked up, and they're expensive. They're like $3 and $4 a piece. And then you gonna get them, and they, as soon as you, let me tell you the difference between the furring strips and making your own framing boards or whatever you need it for out of that pine wood. Those furring strips, when you get them, first of all, they're gonna be all crooked, woo-bop the bam, and then when you put a screw in it, they split. But when you make your own furring strips, it don't do all that. When you make your own furring strips, it don't do that. So I would say 1 piece of that pine possibly could do the strips vertical all the way for your floor. One of that can do your strips for your floor, and you can make them as wide as you want to, which would give you more support. Like if you did 2 inches, the smallest size I would make those my boards for my floor, my framing for my floor. The smallest I would do is 2 inches. Some people probably would do smaller than that, but me personally, the smallest I would do is 2 inches for my floor. But you could even do 3 inches or 4 inches. The wider you do it, the more room you're gonna give yourself to nail your floor in, the base floor in there. So I would make my furring strips for my floor out of 1 sheet of the 3/4 inch pine plywood, which currently at the time I'm making this video is $49.99 at Home Depot. So that's $50 for your furring strip, opposed to you buying the furring strips for $3 and something a piece, and they're gonna be woo-wop the bam. They're gonna be crooked, and then if you try to screw into it, it's gonna crack. Don't buy no furring strips for your van build. Make all of your own furring strips from the 3/4 inch pine ply. First tip. Second tip, if you can afford it, because the 3/4 inch ply is cheaper. The 3/4 inch pine ply is cheaper, but if you're gonna be worried about the weight of your van, okay, use the 3/4 inch ply for all your furring strips if you can afford it. When you start putting your floor down, use the birch, the 1/2 inch birch for your floor if you could afford it. I think that 1/2 inch birch right now at Home Depot is like $60-something a sheet. I think it would take 3 sheets for your floor. So if you can afford the birch, I would suggest that's what you put on your floor. The 3/4 inch birch. No, the 1/2 inch birch on your floor. If you cannot afford the 1/2 inch birch on your floor, then use the 3/4 inch ply. But I would highly recommend that you use the 1/2 inch birch on the floor, but the 3/4 inch ply to make your furring strips. Okay? Huh?
3/4 inch pine, you said?
Yeah, the 3/4 inch pine for your furring strips, but when you get ready to put the floor down, I would recommend the birch. I don't have the birch on my floor, y'all. I don't have the 1/2 inch birch on my floor. But if I had to do my floor over again, or I had to do another van build, I would use the 1/2 inch birch if I could afford it. Also, the next thing that is very important, all this stuff that I'm saying, your furring strips and your floor, the keels or whatever, what is the name of that?
KLTZ.
Is that the mildew protectant? Now, lesson learned, y'all. When I first started doing my van build, I was buying the gallon of the keels. It's the mildew protectant for you need that in the van build, a mildew protector. But if you buy the gallon, it's $22 or $24. And if you get the big 2 gallon, it's $22. So you're getting a whole nother gallon for free by buying the 2 gallon one. Y'all, please buy that stuff. And every single thing that you put in your van, your floors, your furring strips, it's gonna be time consuming, y'all. But that's one thing I am comfortable in knowing, that every piece of wood in my van, I painted it and I put 2 coats on all my furring strips, on all my framing, on all my wood for my floor on both sides, the underside and the top side. I painted all of it, and I recommend that you do that. So get you the 2 gallon bucket of keels to start, 1 bucket to start out with. You're probably gonna need at least, girl, I think we might have used like 6 bucks of that during the van build, but you're probably gonna at least need 2 buckets of that. I put 2 coats on everything, y'all, and I'm gonna tell you why I recommend you putting 2 coats and not 1. And make sure you paint it on and roll it on really good, because in a van build, your worst enemy is moisture, your worst enemy is mildew, and your worst enemy is a leak, and your worst enemy is you spilling water. I'm my worst enemy, because in my van treasure, I was always wasting water. I'm talking about every time you look around, I accidentally kicked over the bucket, or accidentally I was washing dishes on the floor, or I was giving myself a pedicure, or I had a cup of water. I was always wasting water, you guys. And I don't think I did the mildew protector on everything in that van. I highly recommend that you do the mildew protector 2 coats on every single piece of wood you put in that van, because once you put your walls up, you guys, you're never going to go back there again. You're never going to take those walls down again. So you will not know if you got mildew from condensation. But if you protect that wood, 9 times out of 10, you're not going to have those issues. I ain't even on no numbers, y'all. After you put your floor down, after you put your walls down, up, and you put the mildew protector on there, now this is something that I think is going to save you a lot of time and trouble, and I wish somebody had told me this. So I'm helping the sister out, or a brother out today, okay? After you put the mildew protector on your floors and your walls, hopefully by this time you know the color scheme that you're going with. Whatever your lightest or your darkest color is, I say whatever your darkest color is in your color scheme, go get a gallon of that paint and paint your floor that color and paint your walls that color before you do any building in the van. You're gonna say, why are you gonna do that? Number one, I learned the hard way that when you do your van build, it is gonna look nicer when you build your cabinets. When you open up your cabinets at the bottom of the floor, it's gonna look nicer when your color coordinates with your van build color scheme. So whatever your darkest color is in the van, paint your floors and paint your walls that color, even if you're gonna do something else to your floors. Now listen to me, you don't have to do whatever you're gonna do to your floors, you don't have to do it to the whole floor. So the cabinets that's gonna be underneath something that you're gonna build, those don't need to have a floor on them. Those don't need to have tile on it underneath the cabinet. But when you open it up and it have that accent color of your whole design, that's gonna look nicer than that white. So on my walls are painted orange now, but I had to paint around stuff. If I would have rolled that whole wall, my color scheme, before I did any building, it would have looked so much nicer. I wouldn't get paint on the wood that I'm putting up there. I'll just roll the whole wall. And it's the floors that are behind the cabinets, underneath the cabinets. When I open up the cabinets, it will coordinate with the whole design. So paint your floors and your walls whatever the darkest color in your color scheme is going to be. You're going to save yourself time, you're going to save yourself money, and the van build is going to look neater because you're not getting paint all on something else, trying to paint around something and trying to get behind it. Learn today. I wish somebody would have told me that. And another thing that I learned the hard way, and all of these lessons that we learn the hard way, y'all, it costs money. And you're going to be able to save so much money on your van build because you're not making these mistakes. Because the more floor that you cover with the material, the more money you're going to cost. Now, if you're putting one of those, the interlocking tile floors in, the planks, and you want that throughout your whole van build, go on, put that whole thing down. But like if you're gonna be putting like I did the tile on my floor, or now I'm doing the epoxy on my floor, you don't need to put the epoxy everywhere. You just need to put the epoxy on the piece of the floor that's left over the sun after you finish your van build. So that's why I'm saying paint your floor the darkest color, and then just do your van build, and that exposed floor that's going to be under the cabinets or in the inner cabinets, at least it will match your design. And that part you're not going to need to put a flooring on, but you have put the mildew protector on there, and then you've painted it and it match everything. And then the remaining floor that's left over after you finish your van build, that's the part you're going to put your tile on, or that's the part you're going to do your epoxy floor on. And you're going to save more money because you're not doing the whole floor, and you just painted the rest of the floor. So, and now that I have done epoxy floors and epoxy countertops, I think a lot of people should really do that in their van builds, because it's gonna allow you creativity. It's gonna allow you design and style, and it's gonna allow you durability. So I would highly recommend epoxy in a van build over tile and over the planks and over the boards, because even when you put the planks and the boards in a van build, eventually, y'all, sometimes moisture gets in between those tile, dirt get in between the tile, you waste water go here, water go there. But if you use that epoxy, baby, that water is just staying on the top of that flow, and you can go and clean it up. After you use that epoxy on your floor, nothing ain't going nowhere no more. And if you are going to use epoxy, make sure that you're caulking before you use the epoxy. Make sure you caulking all the way around the perimeter of wherever you're going to put that epoxy in, so that way that epoxy is not going to slide down the walls like it did mine. And that's a lot of sanding afterwards. And if you're doing it on your floor, you don't want the epoxy to run behind your cabinets, so make sure you caulk first. And some of these tips might seem like a no-brainer to some people, and some of these tips might seem like, well, if I skip it, it's not gonna make that big of a deal. That's what I thought when I didn't put that caulking on my countertops. I thought, oh girl, that ain't gonna make that big of a deal, girl. That epoxy
Cost you hours of labor.
went all the way down my walls, messed up paint job and messed up cabinets, and it's work. It's extra work. It's extra money. The sandpaper costs money. Just learn from other people's mistakes, and everybody not gonna tell you the mistakes that they made, because they just want you to look at their van build and say, oh, that's nice, and they don't want you to know that they did it over 3-4 times like I did. And they did. We are still on the basics, y'all. We still on the framing, and that's a lot. That's the tips. When you put your floor down, do not use a nail gun. Don't do it. When you put your floor to your furring strips, you're gonna be tempted to use a nail gun. Don't do it. Screw it in. And there is a product that's called Bundo, where you can cover those screw holes and bundle it and make it flat. Do not use nails. The nails will eventually come back up. And if you have tile like I did, And even if you have the plank, eventually that'll be working its way up through your floor, and them nail heads are gonna come back out. It did through my tile. So do not use a nail gun on your floor. Use screws. And if you can countersink the screws, then that's fine. But if you use a impact drill on your floor, you don't have to countersink. It's gonna like automatically countersink it for you, and then just take a little bundle and put it over those holes, and you're gonna be fine. Especially if you're gonna do an epoxy floor, you're gonna be fine. You don't want those nails to come back up. But like I say, once you start building your cabinets and you start putting things in your van, that floor is not going nowhere. So if you just screw down, you don't have to screw down your furring strips that you're gonna run horizontal. You don't have to screw that down to the metal. I did. Save yourself some time and some money. You don't have to do that. Glue them down. And then once you build your furniture on top of that, that floor is never going nowhere. But I would screw down my wood that I'm going to put on the floor to the furring strips. And don't forget to put your mildew protection on both sides of that wood. If you can afford the 1/2-inch birch for your floor, use that. Now for the wall, you could use the 1/2-inch birch as well, and I think some people use something even thinner than that 1/2-inch birch. I don't know why, y'all. I'm not comfortable with using on the wall and the ceiling the wood that's thinner than the 1/2-inch birch. I'm not comfortable with that. But I have seen other people do it in van builds. I'm not comfortable with using anything thinner than a 1/2-inch for them walls. But you can do it. But I'm just not comfortable with it. But it would be a little cheaper for you and more lightweight if you use the cheaper wood on your walls. Now I have seen some people that want to do the ceiling, and they put the wood on the ceiling. I forgot what they call it, wood that interconnect with each other. They put that on the ceiling. Now I have shiplap. Okay, the shiplap wood, that's pretty expensive, y'all. I have seen some people take the 3/4-inch pine, or you could even take the 1/2-inch birch and just make you some slats, and they just use that, and they put them like leave a little gap in the middle. Well, I have seen people like they put that thinner wood on the ceiling first, and they paint it black. They put it up there and they paint it black, and then they take the 3/4-inch pine, or you can do the 1/2-inch pine, and they cut them down, and they leave a gap in between them where you can see the little black, and it still looks like the shiplap, and it's cheaper. So I would recommend doing something like that, and just you trying to save money. And I have seen somebody use like a cheaper shiplap. It's a cheaper. It was thinner. They did the shiplap, but and I've seen somebody take the pallets and make the wood for their walls and their ceilings. It's so many things that you could do, you guys. Before you start your van build, even when you think you've done enough research about an extra month after that. Because I'm going to tell you, it's going to be some videos that you wish you would have seen before you start doing your van build. And you're gonna be like, man, but I watched a lot of videos. That was me. I watched a lot of videos. Been watching videos for years. But still, it was some videos that I needed to find that I didn't find until after I did things and made mistakes. And your foundation for your van build is the most important. Your framing, your mildew protection, your insulation, the things that people do not see is the most important things. The rest of it is cosmetic and paint. You ain't to that point yet. When you first start in the van build, the insulation, your mildew protection, and the thickness of wood that you use is gonna have a lot to do with the weight of the van. That stuff is the most important stuff than anything else in your van build. And I don't care if you don't do a van build. Do your installation, put your floor in, and live in that sucker with just the mattress, and you gonna be good. But the cosmetic stuff, that's people put too much pressure on themselves to make their van look good when they don't even and they cut corners when it comes to the insulation and the mildew protection, and that is that's the most important thing. It really, really, really is. Okay. Any other tips that I could give y'all for this video, because it's gonna be long. I'm gonna have to make a part 2. This is basically like your framing and your foundation, y'all. Let's reiterate. Do not use that regular plywood from Home Depot under no circumstances. Do not use it. Use the 3/4 inch pine ply. It's $49.99. Do not buy any furring strips for your van. Buy the 3/4 inch plywood and make your own furring strips. Do not buy no Havelock wool. Save yourself some money and buy, even if the insulation that I'm recommending you buy, because it is a little costly, even if
It has fiberglass, that's why they don't use it.
I know, but it's gonna be behind the walls. You live with it in the home, same thing. Even if the stuff that I suggest to you costs you just as much as the Havelock wool, guess what? It gives more protection to them walls. The Havelock wool alone will not protect those walls from the heat. So you still need that stuff. So I really feel like you could just get away with using that stuff alone. And if you feel like you still need insulation, then get the regular home insulation. I know a lot of people are saying, well, it's not healthy for the environment. But do you put Havelock wool in your house? You got regular insulation in your house. Those walls are going to have so much wood on them, that's not going to even bother nothing. Like I had regular home insulation in Treasure. I didn't have the sound deadening stuff, but I wish I would have known about that, and that's why I'm telling you about it. If you have a Ford Transit like mine, and it comes with the black stuff on the wall and that metal thing on the walls, like I say, I would take that off, but I take it off temporarily to put my insulation and everything back behind that, and then I'll put it back up. I would leave those metal things in there, but you don't have to, because you will get, if you don't leave those metal things in there, you will get about 3 to 4 inches in space. But leaving those metal things in there will make your walls straighter, because Girl, let me tell you something about this Ford Transit. The metal in the Ford Transit is stronger than any metal in any other van.
Oh my gosh.
Baby. Nah, the Ford Transit got its pros and cons. Them curbs is a con in the Ford Transit. But the metal in the Ford Transit, baby, some of that metal you is not going to be able to get through. So it's going to be harder to screw into the metal of the walls to do your framing. It's going to be harder. But, okay, so listen to this. Like I say, everything that I tell you, it's a pro and a con to it, and it's also another option. If I wanted more inches in my van, I would not leave that metal up. If I had an issue with space,
You talk about the barrier.
that
Divider.
the metal things that's on the outside that make that wall straight, that's on the outside of the black stuff, I'll show it to you. I would not leave those up if you want more room. And that's why I took mine down. But leaving them up makes your wall straighter. But taking them down makes the wood be flusher to the wall. And you're going to get about, I would say, 4 to 6 inches in your van. Every inch of room that you get is going to make a difference. But I just remember something in saying that, because I suggest leaving them up if you want your walls to be straighter and you want it to be easier, because you can screw straight into them, and you can screw your furring strips horizontally onto that. Would make it easy to put a wall up. But then even doing that, it's still gonna, because you're gonna put the 3/4 inch ply on it, that's still, the thing is about this far away from the wall, and then you're gonna put that furry strip on top of that. That's gonna be another 3/4 of an inch, and then you're gonna put the wood on top of that. That's gonna be another 1/2 inch, depending on what type of wood you use. So that's all of that is making your van bill be more narrow. So if you just could put your furring strips directly to the wood, to the metal of the van, then that would be better, because then your wall is just going to go up to that. But I just remembered this. When you do your van bill and you do take the metal things out in the Ford Transit, there are holes that are already there. Some of the holes do not have the threads in them, and some of them do. The ones that do is an automatic bonus for you to run your furring strips straight into that. Do that. You can do them vertical or you can do them horizontal. It's totally up to you. And then the rest of the holes that do not have the automatic threads in, they could still be used. But listen, I didn't figure that out until after I had did my stuff. Remember when we bought the butterfly screws for one part that we was trying to figure out? So, and I thought about that. Them toggle bolts. So, on your framing, you want it directly to the metal. Use every hole that you find to put a toggle bolt in it to bolt that furring strip to the metal. And girl, you won't have, because I'm going to tell you, you won't need this in that Ford Transit. Because you is not, when I say not, you better learn today. You is not going to screw no screws into some of that
About
metal.
10 miles, turn right to merge onto I-15 South.
Hey
toward
girl,
Barstow.
I remember getting some help from somebody, and they was like, oh my God.
That was the worst thing I ever saw.
Oh my God. But baby, and see, if I wouldn't have thought about that, girl, that saved us some time, and I was like, "Ooh, I got an idea." And we put that toggle bolt into that metal, and man, and I want to tell you that frame, and you know what? Doing it that way, you guys, is better for your van build. Toggle bolts are better for your van build. Number one, you're not screwing into your metal, and you know you're not going to get any rust. Number two, you're using pre-existing holes. You're not drilling no new holes. So your framing, and I'm not sure about other vans, because I got a Ford Transit. I'm not sure about other vans when it's just the plain metal exposed. If they have a lot of holes that are already pre-existing, even in your ceiling, you guys, there are holes that are up there that are pre-existing. So you do not have to drill any holes in anything for your framing. You could just use them toggle bolts. I would highly recommend that. Highly recommend that. Girl, you're gonna save yourself so much trouble, so much headache, so much pain, and it's going to be a more solider, because sometimes in a van build, when you use screws, they will work themselves loose. But when you use that toggle bolt, that is going to really make that wood be tight and flush, and you're not going to have to worry about none of that stuff coming loose in the future. So highly recommend toggle bolts on the Ford Transit and any other van that have holes. I would do that to my ceiling and my walls when I do my framing. And I think that is it for my suggestions today for the beginning of your van build, because you need to take this in stages. And please sit down, make a list of everything that you want in your van. And you know what? Start with the basics, you guys. How you gonna build your van out at the beginning of your van build? You thinking about, oh, where my cabinet's gonna be, where this gonna be. That stuff don't have nothing to do with the framing and the insulation. So you can put your pen down and don't jump the gun and be worried about don't worry about the stuff that you're not to yet. You have to take it by slices. You know what they say? How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. And you have to start at the basic part first, and don't worry about all the other stuff. That other stuff is gonna come, and that other stuff is cosmetic. But worry about your framing, worry about your insulation. Cut all the holes in your van that you're gonna cut in your van. Every light that you think you're gonna want on your van, you wanna cut them holes before you put your walls up. So that stuff is what you need to be focusing on. And then how you're gonna build the van, where a cabinet gonna go, what color paint you gonna use. That stuff can go last, but do figure out your color scheme so you can paint your floors and your walls that color. The darkest, I would go with the darkest color that you're gonna use in your color scheme. I would paint my floor that color, and I would paint my walls that color. Another tip, if you decide to do this, which I don't recommend that you do, but if you decide to do your floor in your van build, after you put your wooden floor up and you decide to do the whole floor, please buy that thicker cardboard paper from Home Depot and cover that whole floor until you finish your van build. Do not ever take that paper. Even when you build your cabinets and stuff, you could build your cabinets on top of that paper. and then eventually cut that paper off. But keep your floors covered. If you put a floor down other than the wood, like if you put linoleum on top of that, and if you put tile on top of that, please cover it. Now if you paint it, you don't have to cover it, but if you still want to cover it, you can, because paint, you can always go over it. But if you get scrape marks and scratches on your floor that you can just put down, you done messed up. Don't ask me how I know. I'm trying to help you, and I ain't keeping no secrets. I'm telling you, yes, I messed up. Yes, I made mistakes. Yes, I wasted money through the mistakes I made. But I want you to come behind me and make your van bill be as cheap as it could be. And don't start ordering everything that you see other people doing in a van bill, and you say, oh, this is a good idea, no, that's a good idea. Don't start ordering all this stuff until you need it and until you get to that part, because I can promise you, you're going to order something that you are ending up not going to use, and you're going to waste money that could have went towards your van bill. I have so much stuff that I bought that I did not use. So many, when we was looking at the videos for the solar, and all of them fuses this man used, and baby, we bought them fuses, and for the system that I had, I needed bigger fuses than the ones that I bought. So I got about 6 fuses, and them things cost $15, $20 a piece. So if you have any questions, leave them in the comments bar below. And this is the basic tips on getting your van insulated, framed, and getting your parts in. That the hose have to be cut in for your lights, for your max air fan, for your lights, your max air fan, and your sure power. You need to cut those hoses out before you put that wall up. So definitely do that. And I'm signing out, y'all. We still driving, as you can see. I had to talk to keep myself. Child, I'm about to film another video. Edit this. Try to upload it. And film another, probably part 2 of the things I've learned, and that's going to end up being like the framing, the ceiling, the framing. I already suggested run your floors horizontal, not the furring strips horizontal, not vertical. Make your own furring strips, and if you can afford it, put 1/2-inch birch ply on the floor. Paint
In
everything.
1 mile, turn right to merge onto I-15 South toward Barstow.
Paint everything with the mildew protector, and use that insulation that I'm talking about. I will try to link it in the description box below, and you're gonna be off to a better start than most if you do all that I just said, because the stuff that people don't see is the most important things, because that's going to have a lot to do with your comfort in your van. You being warm in the wintertime and you being cool in the summertime. And you're not going to be getting sick because you have mildew in your van. So don't listen to people who tell you don't need no insulation. Don't watch people who just put the boards straight on the wood, on the metal, and they do not paint that wood. They got mildew in their van, girl. They do. They sure do. Because that floor is definitely going to have condensation. The floor and the ceiling and the walls are going to have
Go
condensation in the
past this stop
van
sign, then turn right to merge onto I-15 South.
because
toward
it's
Barstow.
metal. And another thing, you guys, about using that insulation, and I'm talking about using the foam insulation, I think that would really cut down on the condensation on that metal, because you're covering all the metal with that. And I think you're not gonna have condensation in a van like you normally would if you do not cover that metal. Because even when you put insulation in your van, but you're not putting this kind of insulation in your van, you're still gonna get condensation behind that insulation. Like if you use the Havelock wool, or if you use the regular house insulation, if you don't put this other stuff that I'm talking about on them walls, because that's metal, you're gonna still get condensation behind there. And regular insulation can get moldy, and Havelock wool can get moldy.
For
But I
about
think
120 miles, continue straight.
But I think putting that other stuff on it will keep you from getting a lot of condensation in your ceiling and in your walls. So anyway, y'all, I think that's enough information at one time, because some of y'all can't process a whole lot of information at one time. And if you're not ready for your van bill right now, but you watch this, when you get ready, start you a playlist and put this video in that playlist. You get ready to start your van bill, watch this video from beginning to end again, and you're gonna save a lot of hard work, time, and energy. Yeah, I wish I would have made this video. I wish somebody else would have made a video like this for me to watch, because we have learned a lot the hard way. And Charlene said she never did want to do another van bill again. But I have a feeling we're going to be doing some more van bills in the future. So we need to know this kind of stuff. And you're going to do a van bill in the future. So you need to know this, girl. So I'm going to sign out. Thank y'all for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. And hit the notification bell to be notified each and every time I upload a new video. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments bar below. If this video was helpful, let me know. And if you have a friend or a family member that's doing a van bill, pass this video on to them, girl. They need it. I'll talk to y'all later. Bye now. Thanks for watching.